Alrighty, and with that, we are live. Also, there's definitely nothing on the screen right now that is terrifying, and if you think there is, I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe I should get rid of that. There we go, problem solved. How's it going, guys? It's Monday, which means today officially sucks, but that's okay, because we're here together. As much as you probably don't like that, and as much as I probably don't like that either. I see that people already have problems with us beginning with the face. But that's okay. The face is here. The face is here just to say hello. And it will forever be here. And if anybody wants to know what references are being used whenever a random face comes on screen, I have a Twitch channel. That's where we do all that stuff. We grab all that stuff on the video game streams on Twitch, so please follow me there. So how are you guys doing today? It's Monday. Which also means that I'm going to be doing a few things. So, as you guys know, here recently we did a live stream trying to fundraise in order to get bills paid and other stuff, and you guys came through really, really strong. So we should be able to afford most of what we can. Of course, we got another $1,200 expense on top of everything else right afterwards because we are getting the tree taken care of. So the good news is that the tree is being taken care of. The bad news is that that's another $1,200 we have in the hole now. Yay! But with all that said, I did still want to thank you guys for helping out with the fundraiser stream. It's definitely going to help towards things. I just underestimated how much was going to be required. But we'll see what happens with today's stream anyway. That's a very bad way of actually moving into this guy. So, as you guys know, I've been mentioning that I need to actually do one of these for a while. We actually finally decided to get a merch shop opened up. Merch shop is there with Very H, Let's Do a Thing, and of course, Neko Girl Cirrus, because that you can't really escape that anymore. So, hopefully, you guys will go visit the Teespring link that is in the description and see that. At least I think the Teespring link is in the description. If it's not, please let me know, because I'm an idiot. So, with all that said, what other shilly things we have to do right now? Oh, well, yeah, probably also, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. There's a subscribe button right there on screen. Clicking it won't do anything, but it will at least make me happy that somebody clicked and accidentally paused the stream. And then, of course, there is always Patreon as well if you guys would like to support via a monthly donation as opposed to grabbing a shirt or anything like that. Also, any artwork that you guys do buy or any merchandise that you guys do buy, me and Gaelic Knox are splitting all of that so that money goes back into the artist creator as well as into me. So that's a thing that you guys can be happy about. And finally, if you guys have subscribed, but you're not seeing me in my feed or in your feed whenever we hop in, then of course there is the notification bell. So, Hamma Bull of Cartha says Sundari Catgirl Cirrus needs to exist. You know, one day I'm going to actually move that bell thing to where it's not, like, directly in my face. But I'm also incredibly lazy, so I'm not going to be doing that right now. Okay, so all the animations are done. All the animations are out of the way. I hope you guys enjoyed all that. That's my shilling. That's all done for the time being. I may do some more later in the episode just because bills suck, and I like being able to entertain you guys. So, what do we have on the docket for today? Well, last week, we tried to tackle computing forever, but instead, we ended... Jack Bull says, how do you want me to torture you with fan art today? Yes. Instead, last week, we ended up having a debate with Jesus is Lord. That happened instead of us doing the Computing Forever video. So this Monday, we will be doing Computing Forever, as originally scheduled last week. With that said, let's go ahead and begin. The subject matter that Computing Forever is covering right now is broken gender dynamics, women, family, career, and truth. I sincerely hope that he can actually define truth, because his definition of truth and my definition of truth are probably going to be completely different.
Autocomplete search results on Google. Women are happier without children, and women should work. I mean, forget the prospect of having a happy and fulfilling life, doing something meaningful like raising a family.
All right, let's go ahead and begin with the first issue we have here. So he begins by saying, forget having a worthwhile and meaningful life doing something like raising a family. To begin this way, I would argue, and if I'm wrong, please, in the chat, Let me know if I'm incorrect here, but that seems to me that the way he's wording that invalidates any other thing that somebody may do that they consider meaningful or worthwhile. For instance, let's take my girlfriend Raz as an example. Raz has been working every other day trying to get a video out for a secondary channel that I'm working on, a gaming channel. We're going to be doing a critique of Banjo-Kazooie over there, as well as other videos down the road. She has been taking care of that. She has also been handling the Discord server, which has been incredibly helpful, so she has been working to help me. I consider that incredibly worthwhile. I would rather her be doing that than raising a kid, just because that's stuff that helps me and helps the house way more than randomly, arbitrarily adding in another mouth to feed here. But that's not worthwhile. Likewise, Emmett, my other girlfriend, same thing. Emmett has been doing everything she can at university in order to actually get a career in animation and get a career in being an artist. Those are things that not only help our house because she is the primary channel artist of the channel, but those are things that help her as well because those are her passions. Ignore the fact that neither of them can actually carry children to term. But these things are not considered worthwhile positions to somebody like Computing Forever. And then finally, of course, there is Aaron, who I am also dating. And in Aaron's case, we have somebody who was a careered forensic scientist. So something like that allows you to help the criminal justice system bring people to justice, that's not considered a worthwhile thing. That's not considered something that you would deem as useful to society or in general, or even happy and fulfilling. Those are things that you don't consider good. Like, because each one of them, like, obviously Aaron does not help me specifically in that field because I'm not dead, and therefore trying to figure out who killed me is not necessarily in the things that are needed right now. But at least for me, I'm incredibly thankful for the two, and then I would never stop the other from doing what they wanted to do. Not telling these people that they must have children in order to be happy and satisfied. So let us continue, because we obviously are beginning under the purview that these three people whom I care about greatly should not be able to pursue their fields and instead should just be baby makers.
Instead, women are apparently happier by denying their biological reproductive impulse and instead working in some air-conditioned corporate office and becoming a wage slave. Sounds like liberation.
Wait. Becoming a wage slave. So what if they didn't work in an air-conditioned corporate office and instead did something like YouTube? Or instead did something independent? Hell, what if they even did something like sex work? Would they still be considered a wage slave in your eyes? Like, I don't think that in a society where you have wages, you can get away from the idea that people are going to have to be wage slaves. Like, that's just a natural side effect of having a society that has wages. So if you happen to have a society where wages are a thing, everybody is a wage slave. If you're rearing a child, guess what? By being under your husband, and your husband's a wage slave, by entailment, you are slave to the same wages. I'm sorry, you can't get away from that. You can't just randomly go, I had a kid, and now I no longer live in a society. That's not a thing you get to do. I'm sorry. That's not how any of that works.
To me. Now, when I say that I think women would be happier as mothers, I'm speaking generally. And I know that some people don't want to be parents, and that's fine, and some people aren't cut out to be parents. I'm also aware that there's a small percentage of women who are simply unable to have children. So I'm speaking to the majority here in the same way that when I say that men should be providers, I'm obviously not speaking to the minority of men who can't work due to mental or physical limitations or disabilities. I think.
What about those who don't want to, though? Like, that seems to be a very easy answer to that. If they do not want to do something, that would probably be the litmus test. Why would you force somebody to do something they don't want to do? Obviously, there are things people are going to have to do for their survival. That does not mean that men must be the providers. There are times where women can be the providers and men can be the ones that are taking care of the kids at the home. I don't see any problem with that. But of course, Computing Forever does. But I don't see how you can get to that conclusion.
I have to put that disclaimer in place. The reason I was motivated to make this video was because of some tweets recently made by Stefan Molyneux and a few of the replies that he received. He said, "Ladies, by the time you are 30, 90% of your eggs are dead. Get married young, have your babies, then have your career. You have 40 years to work if you want to. You only have a short time to have children. Listen to Mother Nature. She loves you and wants you to be happy. Now,
Okay, so if a woman simply does not want to have children, by this particular tweet, by the logic that this tweet has, we would assume that it doesn't matter what the woman wants to do, they should do exactly what Mother Nature intended to do anyway. Secondly, I believe that Stephen Molyneux is a materialist. He's not like a substance dualist or anything. So by trying to argue that Mother Nature has intentions at all, that already puts him in a really awkward position, doesn't it? So I'm real loud and he's really quiet. Let me see what I can do to fix that. Hold on.
now I'm not sure about...
Let's see. Let's see.
Listen to Mother Nature. She loves you and wants you to be happy.
Now, is that better? Okay, cool. Sorry that was so loud in the beginning. So, that is fixed now. Or at least mostly fixed. There's something in there anyway. Zero/ says, isn't this a myth that someone waits too long she won't have kids? No, not actually. Menopause exists. Menopause is a thing. Not to mention the actual chances that you will have complications with a pregnancy do increase later in life as well. So no, it's actually not a myth. It's pretty well grounded. Also, women do have a limited number of eggs in their system. This is why eggs are so costly when we harvest them. Not only are they limited, but we also have to do a lot of things in preparation for harvesting, like making sure that the woman doesn't have sex for a certain amount of time. Can't remember all the other things that go involved. I've looked this up before, but I can't remember all of the details that are involved in here. And yeah, no, menopause doesn't just happen randomly when you're 30. Menopause happens way later.
Now, I'm not sure about the statistic that he mentioned, as I haven't read where that was sourced from, but the general sentiment of what he's saying I agree with. Putting career before having a family is a terrible idea for women. Men can continue to father children for decades after a woman reaches menopause. Women have only so many viable eggs, and generally, they experience increased difficulty getting pregnant as they progress through their 30s.
Okay, so let's do a thing here. When does menopause usually happen? Menopause usually happens between the ages of 45 and 55, but it may occur earlier, and it may occur until they're 60. So it does seem to me that the idea that this is that we're just waiting till 30 and then everything goes away, that's really unfounded. That's really freaking unfounded. Also, to say that, oh, well, you need to not pursue, to say that women should not pursue their career early and should do that later is to basically say that men are allowed to pursue whatever they want in their life for as long as they want, period. Because they can have sex and have as many babies as they want whenever. But women, on the other hand, they have to wait 20 years. Because that's how long it's going to take for them to get that kid out of the house, more than likely, if they even do at that point. So, wait a minute. If a woman has to wait 20 years, but a man can do it immediately, why? Again, Aaron, forensic scientist, has a couple of degrees and has also actually served in the United States military, so there's a level of respect to be earned in there as well. This is somebody who has been able in the past to follow their what they wanted to do, and not because they were told that they needed to put their life on hold for any amount of time. Also, I would also say don't randomly throw Jill out of the chat. We all know that Jill's wrong, but at the same time, timing him out every now and again will work, but don't ban. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but Sirs harms me with his ideas. Jill, basically. Fair enough. What's going on here? Okay. So, this idea that for some strange reason women, by nature of being born women, must put their lives on hold for a couple of decades, just in case they want to have kids, is stupid. What do you expect them to do during the time that they're not having children? As an example, my mother did not have me until in her late 20s, if memory serves. And so what you're telling me is during those 8 to 10 years after high school, was she supposed to just sit around and not do anything, not pursue a career, not learn anything, not gain any skills, not do jack shit? Because there was a chance. There was a chance that she would have kids eventually. Really. That seems to be a really, really, really dumb take. But if your take is informed by Stephen Molyneux, it's probably going to be dumb.
Young women are being encouraged by our society to sacrifice their prime fertile years of their early to mid-20s and go to college and then enter the workforce. Now, I understand that there will be some women in the comments who will say that they know women who had like 5 children in their 30s or something and had no problems conceiving. But again, I'm not referring to outliers here.
So, what you're saying is that your message that is being broadcast to everybody is only intended for a small amount of people who you deem that it should be for. Then what's the point of your message? That's like saying that your message is for an echo chamber. Your message is for people who already agree with you on something. Like for me, my message is equally for people who want reinforcement of their ideas that may be informed by confirmation bias, as it is also for people who want to see new ideas, as it is also for people who are opposed to my ideas. My content is set so that if somebody agrees with me, cool. If they don't agree with me, that is also cool. They are getting something from it, I hope. Either you're getting better argumentation that you can use, assuming mine's better. It might not be. Or you might also be getting something from the other side that will help you argue your position, even if it's one I disagree with. By tailoring it specifically for only the type of people that you think it should be for there, that feels a little disingenuous for me. Also, what about, just throwing this out there, what about women who can be fertile early, but do not necessarily have the guarantee that they're going to survive life past the age of 40. There are women that have several issues that can lead to this. Are you saying that they have to have kids now instead of doing something they like? Or, how about this one? A woman who has a child early and then dies via circumstance. Any of them. Could be car crash, plane crash, could be randomly assaulted in the middle of a streetway, anything like that. So, are you saying that it is better that this woman did not pursue anything that would make her particularly happy, and instead engaged with your idea, and now we have a motherless child in the world as well? That's better. That's the better scenario in here. And this isn't an outlier. Obviously, his statement is to speak to people who are not the outliers, but this person is not an outlier, because they were not predisposed to be an outlier per Computing Forever's definitions. This is a person who became an outlier after the fact. So this is somebody who should have listened, per his definitions, to his suggestion, his advice, and it led to a notably worse path.
Talking about in the main. I'm also not against women working, but that's something that they should consider doing after they've had and raised their children.
Wait, no.
But that's something that they should consider doing after they've had and raised their children.
No, if your position, I'm not against women working, but by having a but, by putting a but there, you've invalidated the statement, I'm not against women working. You don't need the but. That's the end of the statement. This reminds me of a quote from Harry Potter. Ironically, when Dumbledore is coming to retrieve Harry from the Dursleys, and Vernon Dursley tries to say to Dumbledore, "No offense, but," and Dumbledore stops him and goes, "You know, oddly enough, it is the times that people say no offense that they mean the most offense. So why don't we go ahead and just continue this conversation as if you've welcomed me into your home?" And I think that holds true here. When you have to say something with a qualifier, many times it invalidates the previous statement completely.
This article is from parents.com. Your chances of getting pregnant at every age. Early 20s, 20 to 24. Behold, the magic window for baby making. When a woman is 21, 90% of her eggs are chromosomally normal, which helps your chances of conceiving a healthy baby, Dr. Copperman says.
Jonah Epstein, wouldn't that be Hagrid? No, it was not Hagrid. Dumbledore retrieved Harry from the Dursleys in the 6th book. Hagrid retrieved Harry from the Dursleys in the 1st book. And Hagrid was not so articulate so as to say the no offense thing. Sorry, Tony, the Discord link sent you to the wrong area. That was my bad.
And as the article states, Dr. Alan Copperman, MD, is the Director of Reproductive Medicine Associates of New York and co-director of the Division of Reproductive Endocrinology and Infertility at the Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City.
Okay, so what we are finding here is we are grabbing an ought from an is in a really awkward way. Something you can't really do anyway. It is the case that the magic window for baby making is what he says it is here, early 20s, 20 to 24. Does that mean that is when we ought to make babies? Well, no, that doesn't necessarily follow. You can't pull that from there. Also, you mispronounced Vernon. You know what? Honestly, if there's anybody in the Harry Potter series that deserves to have their name mispronounced, it's Vernon Dursley. I'm sorry. But you can't pull an ought from an is in this way. You can't look at something like this and say, well, it is the case that there's a higher chance of success here, therefore you should do this here. No. What you can pull from this is, therefore, if your intention is to have children, you would be well served by trying to have them earlier. That does not mean you should. It does not pull an ought out of there, but he is trying to pull a moral ought from this. You cannot do that. Not to mention, if you are not prepared to handle a child, so you're not financially ready, don't have a kid. Don't. You've got several options. You have birth control. You have the ability to take a Plan B pill if need be. And in another scenario, you have the ability to abort. But you don't need to be in a situation where you have to have a child. There are options you have to avoid that. So when somebody says that you must have these children early, I completely deny that.
You also have age on your side. The average woman's fertility peaks at the age of 24. Women under age 25 have a 96% chance of conceiving in a year if they're trying each month. Early 30s, 30 to 34. Your odds of conceiving are still high, up to an 86% success rate for couples that try for a full year. The only major change is that your chances of miscarriage by age 30 have risen to 20%, mid to late 30s. 35 to 39. You still have a good outlook for getting pregnant in this window, particularly before age 37, says Kelly Pagadas, MD, a fertility specialist with Women and Infants Center for Reproduction and Infertility in Providence and an associate professor at Brown University Medical School.
Okay, so what I'm getting from this is that if his position here now is you'll have children more easily at earlier age, therefore you must have children at an earlier age. But again, if you're a couple with a high libido and you're not using protection and you are trying very hard for an entire year, that's still a pretty good chance. And if you can't have children at that point, then you still have the option of adopting if you desperately want a child. Believe me, there's plenty of kids that need adopting. Now, granted, that leads into the argument of whether or not the adoption system is not screwed up, and it is. It's way too expensive to adopt, and there's a lot of abuse in the foster care system, but that is what it is. Cartoon Contrarian for the $4.99. So this guy probably saw The Handmaid's Tale and thought, yes, that's very good. Yeah. Fair. Also, I should probably point out that earlier there was a donation that was sent in for $1.99, and it was, we live in a society. Bottom text. God damn it. The society meme. It will never end. It is the best meme. We seem to have
Why
a thing.
isn't intelligent...
No, go away. Go away. Oh boy, one of my favorite comments. Okay, so we're gonna... Anybody want to go on an adventure out with me? I just got a comment 28 minutes ago, and I went ahead and I'm going to screenshot the comment, and we're going to throw it on screen. This is not me trying to divert. I just saw it pop up and decided that this could be something that would be interesting for us to look at real quick. For fun. So apologies if this is completely off topic. Where are you? It should be a screenshot. I should be able to find it. There it is. Randomly popping off here. We're going to take a very small break from Computing Forever's massively large brain, regardless of how smooth it may or may not be. This is on the video I did on intelligent design. Very inaccurate. You clearly have not looked at intelligent design at all. Intelligent design is more specific than more scientific than macroevolution. There's far more empirical evidence for intelligent design than some chemicals arranging themselves into the first protocell. All you have done is mock those who are not evolutionists sheep who follow the pack. You've not looked at the science that holds up intelligent design. Do you not know how complicated a cell is? Even the simplest cell is something that science cannot create. Abiogenesis is a fairy story for evolutionists. There's no scientific evidence backing it up. I don't need to get into the rest of the quote. I just wanted to look at that because I thought that was severely entertaining. Beginning with, first of all, abiogenesis and evolution have nothing to do with one another. You don't need you can have a created universe and still have evolution. These things are not congruous. Secondly, and also, more importantly, we've determined that intelligent design has no repeatable data, so it doesn't actually fit into the purview of science. Anywho, I just wanted to go ahead and diverge for like half a second to pop that up. I thought that was neat. Let's continue.
At 35, most women have a 15 to 20% chance of getting pregnant in a given month. That could mean a 78% chance of conceiving within the year. But 35 seems to be the point where fertility does decline. The most common reason is reduced egg quality, Dr. Pagadas explains. You may have plenty of eggs to work with, but they're likely to have more chromosomal defects that affect their viability. You're also at a little greater risk of miscarriage, a Down syndrome pregnancy, or an abnormal pregnancy. Early 40s, 40 to 44. With advancing age, egg quality and quantity go down. At this stage, you're facing a few challenges that make it harder to conceive and to stay pregnant. By the time she's in her 40s, 90% of a woman's eggs are chromosomally abnormal, Dr. Copperman says. Assistance from reproductive technologies becomes more common at this time, and not just because of the egg issue. There may be more issues with older male partners, and some women report an increase in uterine lining issues with age. The uterine lining thins, and blood supply to it decreases with age, making it more difficult for the egg to implant. As you can see, there's a general law of diminishing returns with age. Now, I'm not trying to dictate to anyone, far from it, but women need to understand that the feminist...
Wait, hold on. If you're not wanting to dictate to anybody, then what is the purpose of this video? Obviously, you are trying to tell somebody what a moral ought is in this video, and by showing them that moral ought, you are providing a sort of dictation for how things should be. That seems to me that the only dictation you're not doing is... The only way you're not dictating something is you're not saying that this is how things have to be all the time, period. But it's still a moral ought. It's like a really awkward way of trying to pretend that you didn't say that. Also, Tata Philosophy donated $2 for Super Chat. Babies are scary. They are, which is why Computing Forever is terrifying.
Social engineers have been lying to them for decades. They've been telling them that freedom is working 9 to 5 for the man, engaging in casual sex, and earning money instead of pursuing lasting, stable relationships and motherhood.
Wait, lasting, stable relationship. Wouldn't a lasting, stable relationship imply that the relationship would not change at some point, which means that it could also be a form of non-freedom? Obviously, not every relationship is a form of slavery or anything like that. Not all relationships have issues with freedom. But neither do all 9 to 5 positions. And nobody's saying that he must be working a 9 to 5 anyways. Like, that's... what he seems to be doing is strawmanning a position and then arguing against that strawman very vehemently. Like, if a woman wanted to be financially stable before having a child, what would be the problem with that? Wouldn't looking for financial stability before the child behoove the parent to make it to where the life is easier for the child? That seems like it would be the case, but apparently Computing Forever here would prefer people be wage slaves while arguing that they should not be wage slaves. Which is really strange to me. Because if you're going to argue that somebody should not be a wage slave and that that's not the way that things need to be, that's not the way that people should act, that's not the thing that would make people happy, but then you argue for a position that will inevitably put them into a state of wage slavery, it seems like, oddly enough, your argument should actually be for something more like socialism, as an example, because it seems to me that your position, no matter which way it goes, the way it's constructed, will lead to a form of wage slavery. The only way that you could possibly create a position that does not include that here is by introducing a different economic system entirely. Overhaul that, and you don't have to have this concept of wage slavery that is causing you so many issues. Well, men are the wage slaves, women are the baby factories. That's just the way the Lord intended. Computing Forever is a socialist confirmed. He would have to be. He would have to be. If his position is against wage slavery, then he would need to advocate for an economic concept that does not include wage slavery. But he would never admit that his position logically leads to something like that.
And the lies they've been told have a truly sinister aim. By encouraging a lot of young women to enter third-level education and then pursue careers, it naturally means that reproduction rates decline overall.
Yes, it is almost as if when people get smarter, they realize that they do not have to have children in order to be happy. There's nothing wrong with reproduction rates going down. The world is very populated right now. The only way, and I already know this is the case, so I'm not constructing a hypothetical here, the only way that women having reproduction rates going down is a problem is if there's a particular type of woman that he does not want to have lower their reproductive rates. I would go ahead and call it right now. It would be well-to-do white women. Mainly because I've seen him advocate for the Great Replacement Theory before. And because I've seen him advocate for the Great Replacement Theory, I know that there's only a particular type of woman he's talking about.
Which is one of the leading reasons that most Western nations are...
Tatted. He's not dumb enough to think women shouldn't go to college. What he does advocate for is that women shouldn't go to college before having children, even though that is the time that you are most likely to go to college and also graduate. He's arguing that having children earlier is much more important than going to college earlier. Renita in the chat says that everyone noticed a lot of people preaching that women should be baby factories are suspiciously childless. Yeah, it's really weird. Emmett, fuck you, I'm gonna keep going to uni. Fight me, I'm gonna get my bachelor. No, I agree. Actually, Emmett, I mentioned you earlier in the stream. I mentioned that you were going for your education when it came to artwork, and that's what you want to do.
Are now well below the replacement rate of 2.1 children. With immigrant populations generally having much larger families, it means that demographic change happens quite quickly.
There it is. The reason that women should be baby factories is because immigrant children are starting to replace the good old natural white ones. That's his argument. We live in a society, everybody. No, I'm not going to go back to that. But...
The second component of the feminist agenda is to turn everyone into hyper-consumers for corporations and taxable units for governments. Film director Aaron Russo claimed...
Wait, hold on. So your argument is that the replacement rate is low. So there would be fewer people. And this is all a conspiracy to get more people to be consumers. Who the fuck would buy anything, you dipshit? If your argument is that they want more people to be slaves to consumerism... You literally are arguing. You are arguing that more people would be consumers if there were fewer people. Big thonk. Very, very big thonk. Okay. I apologize for yelling into everybody's ears. Probably should have said a headphone warning. Ooh. I am also seeing in blurs now, so reading the chat is harder. Guys, you don't have to tell me over and over again not to sing them. I read it the first time. I did. Trust me, I did. Also, Mystic Mine for the $2. Get a load of the society, everyone.
That in the US, the Rockefeller Foundation funded the women's liberation movement in order to tax women. Prior to that, only men really worked, so only 50% of the population were taxable. Bringing women into the workforce means that everyone can be taxed.
And bringing women into the workforce becomes more important when the average wage goes down for people and the living wage goes up. Like, I don't... There's so much compartmentalizing that's going on in this. In order for this conversation to function the way that he thinks it does, there's a lot of compartmentalizing that has to be going on. Not to mention, by having more women work, you only create more taxable bodies in the immediate, if that's his argument. However, you then lose taxable bodies in the future. You have more taxable bodies overall if they have children. Your argument is the one that leads to more taxable bodies.
For corporations and retailers, it means that everyone becomes a consumer. And that's what we now have globally. A society driven by commercial interests, where people...
Yes, we do have a society that is driven by commercial interests. Computing forever. Would you like to know the answer to creating an anti-consumerist society? Changing the economic structure. If you change the economic structure of the society, you can get rid of some of the consumer bias that exists that allows capitalism to do the things that it does. But you wouldn't admit that. Your argument is not that. Your argument is that somehow turning women into baby factories will fix economics.
People are addicted to shallow, vacuous frivolity, enslaved to their passions, and worshipping materialism. Okay, so you're finding it difficult to have a child in your mid to late 30s or early 40s, or you haven't found a good partner yet. But at least you've got money, and you can buy the new iPhone every year, and you can spend your weekends in the shopping mall and blow your hard-earned salary on shiny, pretty things that give you a temporary dopamine hit in your brain, followed by buyer's remorse and a slow sinking feeling of emptiness as you sit alone in front of your television at night, drinking wine and watching Netflix with your cats.
But wait, hold on. What if the thing that fulfills somebody is that? There are people who are not fulfilled by having children. There are people who should not have children, period. Also, yeah, no, he publicly identifies himself as Dave Cullen. It's not a dox. Everybody knows that that's his name. Also, by trying to point out that everybody who gets money, for instance, spends that money just on getting the newest iPhone and going at home and watching Netflix and having cats. Well, first of all, I have a few cats. Probably an unhealthy amount of cats. That's 5 cats. I enjoy them. They're wonderful companions. Hell, one of them, Yumi, is right here. She's been here the whole time. She's a good girl. She stays with me when I stream. So, but I guess there is no emotional gain to having this particular feline companion here. None, right? The love and affection that I get from having this animal near me, as she repositions my hand in the way that she prefers to lick me, I guess there's nothing gained from that. I don't actually gain any emotional benefit from this, right? No, I must have children. That's the way that this goes. I would have to have kids, period. There's no way around it. It's the only way I could possibly gain happiness. Me, my partners, the only way we could ever be happy is by having kids instead. As if having louder pets that can articulate why they're upset to us would somehow make us happier. Yeah, no. I'll pass.
I don't mean to sound insulting to anyone who finds themselves in this situation.
But it is those times that we do not mean to sound insulting that we inadvertently become the most insulting.
Is a lifestyle that's being foisted upon you after all, and you have been tricked into believing that it's one that you chose for yourself. And because of the damage that's been...
Wait. Dave, my dude. What's to say that you were not tricked into believing your position, and now you are propagandizing your position because you yourself were tricked into it? You admitted that you took the God pill, which is definitely distributed through virulent propaganda. Society itself is almost inadvertently theistic in almost every country. And yet, even though you are in the majority in this way of thinking, you somehow think that everyone else has been brainwashed. Except for you, of course. You're not the crazy one. Everyone else is crazy, right?
Done to the gender dynamics, where men and women have been pitted against each other. Both sexes are pointing the finger of blame at each other. Women will ask, where are all the good men gone? Men will ask something similar of women. But the truth is, this has all happened because we've been pushed away from logos and atomized into a lifestyle of mindless NPC consumerism and hedonism.
Wait. Hold on. So by you pushing the predominant narrative that women should be baby factories, and by you LARPing and parroting it, everyone else must be the NPC, even though you have the opinion that makes up over 70% of the population. Based, apparently. No, I don't think that actually works out very well. The NPC is the one who's not thinking for themselves, who's not thinking individualistically. You are thinking, for somebody who would argue against collectivism, you are somebody who is thinking very, very collectively. Collective moral laws for society, as an example. This seems to be your position, and you're advocating for it. Not based, dude. Not based. And no, he was an atheist at one point in time. And then he took what was called the God pill. I've actually done a couple episodes on his God pill episode. I have not seen what Rouge V has tried to do more recently. Please enlighten me.
Pornography is free for a reason, because it's a great way of controlling people and making them docile and compliant, and
No. That's not why it's free. And if pornography, as with a lot of media now, is learning that it can make more money with a free-to-play structure that includes a form of microtransaction. So, for instance, a pornography website can make more money by having a lot of free content paid for by advertisers, much like YouTube, and then through those advertising dollars, allow the content to be free and more readily consumable. It has nothing to do with enslavement of a society. It has to do with the ability to gain a profit via consumerism. And then gaining profits elsewise by also having cam models and other stuff go on the website as well. It is fundamentally no different than the YouTube model. It really is not that much different than the YouTube model. And there was a point in time where pornography was not free. You had to buy your porn. You still can go buy your porn. There's actually still porn that you can't get unless you buy it. Unless, of course, you're going on to ye olde Pirate Bay. So, wait. If your argument is that porn is free because it helps you enslave the society, and yet free porn is a very recent phenomenon. And porn by itself is not technically free, just like the stuff on YouTube isn't technically free. It's free to consume at any point. My content's free to consume at any point, but there's advertisements for my stuff. There's advertisements for other businesses that you have to sit through. That, unless you pay into YouTube Red, and then of course the content you're consuming is no longer free. Nothing here is free in the way that he's trying to argue, and yet somehow he's trying to argue that it's free because it allows you to have a form of mass societal control. Let's ignore the free community that is given by church in the God pill theology that he wants to promote. Let's ignore that. Let's ignore the free community, free readings, free entertainment that are given by the church classically and have over the years that inadvertently have been used as a form of societal control. Let's ignore all that, because that's what he's advocating for. He has to ignore that for his argument to make sense.
Enslaved to their baser instincts. Men need to stop watching porn. It's literally hardwiring their brains for addiction to sexual material. And both sexes need to say no to hookup culture. It's absolute cancer.
Hookup culture is absolute cancer. So I do agree in that there are aspects of hookup culture that are absolute cancer. For instance, pickup artists, by their very nature, are just absolutely cancerous. The only difference between a pickup artist and an actual cancer is that a cancer grows on me, and a pickup artist will never do so. Secondly, when you argue against something like hookup culture, I can only assume that you've either been hurt by somebody who would rather go get an easy date than commit themselves to somebody as disgustingly abhorrent as you, or you're trying to get those sweet incel dollars. Let's also ignore the fact that, again, I'm somebody with 3 partners, right? I'm somebody that has more than one partner, and I am sexual with more than one partner. I still watch porn. I'm not conditioned into not having sex with people and therefore not contributing to society by having children by mere merit of watching porn. Because there's a different area, at least for me, there's an area of the brain that is stimulated by porn, and there's an area of the brain that's stimulated by sex, because for me, sex is intimacy. I cannot get intimacy from porn. But that's besides the point. Computing Forever's point seems to be, largely, that porn is bad because it stops reproduction. And it gives people something else. Which is confusing to me. Because he then makes a special pleading case for immigration babies.
And it's fueling immense levels of narcissism, where some women are focused on obtaining a man with the highest amount of resources possible. This is often referred to as the 80-20 rule, with 80% of women seeking the top 20% of men. This is ultimately unsustainable for a society. It's far more...
You know, I argued that he was making the incel position argument, and I did that in jest. I did that completely in jest. I wasn't aware that we would get to this awkward point in the video where he would make the incel talking point. And yeah, Pikachu, what exactly is an incel? An incel is somebody who has taken to heart the involuntary celibate ideology. Not just somebody who is not able to have sex because they don't want to, but there's actually a particular ideology that I would say identifies one as an incel. One of these is the idea that women all want the chads, and that the incels will never be able to date outside of their, what's the word for it? Their ranking, like their social ranking. So, for instance, if you are a fat slob like me, who spends most of their time indoors playing video games and eating junk food, I, via incel ideology, would only be able to date within my purview, which would be somebody else who would be considered a fat slob and cannot actually socialize or do anything like that. I would only be able to date there. Strangely enough, I happen to have 3 partners that don't fit into those categories. So as a friend of mine who... we're no longer friends now, but there's a video on my channel where this person who, when we were friends, grabbed me, pulled me into the camera, and said, "This is the best argument against incels there is." I would argue that that I at least exist as somewhat of an antithesis to this rule. So it's weird. An incel has to agree with the sexual hierarchy, that there's like a social caste system for this stuff, and that this is a truism. Not just that this is something that people deal with a majority of the time, but that this is an actual truism of society. This is the way things will always function. But that's not necessarily the case, because there are people who are attracted to different things. For instance, you can be someone who society considers ugly in many ways, but you could date somebody who society deems as like cream of the crop, but that person happens to be demisexual. As a result, this person does not find sexual attraction to you via your body or the things that society as a whole will generally see as appreciable. You might not fit the golden ratio or anything, but this person is attracted to your personality and gains sexual satisfaction from your personality because they are demisexual, or if you're smart and they happen to be sapiosexual, same thing. There are things this person is attracted to that don't change anything. Well, they do change something. They change the fact that his argument no longer has anything to stand on. I bet he's making incel talking points just because incels give him money. I would argue that could be the case. Damn it, so you're telling me I'm late to the joke that you are a counter-argument to incels? Yes, you're late to that joke. That joke has been made a while ago.
Viable to seek a balance and trying to attract someone with the same family values, morals, and life goals as yourself, but someone who has sufficient resources to help provide for that family. So the priority is placed where it needs to be, on the family, as opposed to materialism.
Does he even have a working definition for materialism? Because materialism is... Enjoying the family specifically can be considered a type of materialism, because people are a material thing. They are a material item. You are gaining satisfaction through a material item. Unless he's meaning materialism as in, like, objects. But this can still count as materialism because you could be objectifying the child, or objectifying your husband, or objectifying your wife. So you still end up at materialism. There's nothing that says that having a family and gaining satisfaction through that cannot also be a form of materialism if you are viewing materialism in this way. And even then, this is assuming that he's using that definition of materialism. He could be using, I don't think he is, but there's a chance to be, that he could be using the philosophical definition of materialism, which is to say that that which exists is material. All that which exists is material. But he couldn't be making that because he's talking about things like spiritual satisfaction. So I'd have to argue that he is saying that materialism is in the glorification of material things is his point. And if that's the case, people can be considered material things. Seeking satisfaction in people is not the antithesis of materialism.
Now, I disagree with Jordan Peterson on a few things.
I know how that feels.
But I agree with him on the idea of socially enforced monogamy. That's socially enforced, not legally enforced. The feminists are now celebrating slut culture, for heaven's sake. Why? Because they're miserable and misery loves company.
Are they miserable, though? For you to make that point, you would have to argue that the other person must be miserable in their existence. And I don't know if that works. How does glorification of slut culture automatically mean somebody's miserable. I don't deny that there could be somebody who is miserable and is trying to find a way to gain happiness through having sex with multiple people and is not being satisfied in that way, and in trying to tell somebody else that they should do it, they want them to be miserable as well. Not unlike somebody who is playing World of Warcraft currently and wants more people to play with them, realizing that the game has gone to complete shit and just wants other people to indulge in their misery. Misery does love company, after all. That's not to say that that could not be the case, but the mere fact that somebody somebody hates World of Warcraft but is still playing it and wants people to play with them so that they can be miserable as well and bitch together says nothing about the people who actually enjoy playing World of Warcraft and are inviting people because they think that they will actually enjoy it as well. There are people that may enjoy being sluts. They are not miserable by any nature. They could be living their best life, but you're assuming that by being a slut, they must be miserable. Bothersome. It's very bothersome. Monogamy isn't for everyone. Maybe if monogamy was accepted, divorce rates wouldn't be so bad, especially when they don't feel they need to commit. Okay, so that's when you said monogamy isn't for everyone. Maybe if polyamory were accepted, divorce rates wouldn't be so bad because they don't feel like they need to commit to one relationship or have just one partner. No, I agree with that. Also, so we have a we have a couple of things that have been submitted fan art wise. Let me go ahead and get those in here real quick. Stream, current stream. Boom. One bit of fan art is apparently my avatar saying all women are queens. Which, I'd say that all people are royalties of their own design. But then what is this one? Oh my god! This one though, I agree with. This is apparently David Cullen here saying if she breathes, she's an incubator. Oh my god. If she breathes, she's an incubator. So we have a little bit of fan art to make us feel better. Hopefully. Sprite Knight says, but I don't identify as royalty. Well, if you have rights to your own body, you're at least king of one castle. German visitor incubator contract. Okay, look. I hope not to spoil anything from that wonderful show, but has anybody noticed that that poster up there is from Madoka Magica? Just figured I'd throw that out there.
Reject this lifestyle if you want a fulfilling, meaningful life. All you'll experience...
Yes, because David Cullen is the person to tell us what a fulfilling, meaningful life should be.
Otherwise is loneliness, isolation, and pain. I don't think anything is going to change until this current generation acknowledges the reasons as to why they're so unhappy and spiritually and emotionally unfulfilled.
Spiritually and emotionally unfulfilled. I would love for him to define spiritually fulfilled. Because it seems to me that when somebody says spiritually, everybody has a different definition of spiritual. So when somebody says spiritually unfulfilled, I'm curious what they mean by that. Because with everybody having a different definition of spirituality, I can't actually determine if there's any merit to spiritual fulfillment or unfulfillment. How would we identify that somebody is spiritually fulfilled or spiritually unfulfilled? Because without us being able to identify anything attached to spiritualism, it seems like any measurement thereof would just be pulled out of your ass. Jesus is Lord in the chat says, the man is the head of the woman, she submits to his authority. Jill, I hope you date a dominatrix one day. And I hope she steps on you and becomes the authority of you. That's my hope.
Biology has a logos of its own. The act of sexual intercourse has to be respected as, firstly, about reproduction, and secondly, about creating an emotional and spiritual bond between a man and a woman who...
Wait, why can't it primarily be about promoting an emotional and spiritual bond between a man and a woman, and then secondarily be about procreation? Because, hear me out. If a woman and if a man and a woman have sex 200 times in a year and they have one baby, those 200 times in the year, wouldn't they be focusing more on that emotional fulfillment? And then the baby just came. The baby seems like it would come secondly, right? Like, it seems to me like that would definitely be a secondary thing to look into. So when you try to argue that this is what the hierarchy should be, it should be procreation first and then emotional fulfillment afterwards. Fuck that. If I'm the one having sex, then I want the emotional fulfillment first, children second. Except for me, it would be children, like, way down there. Because for me, it would be something more like emotional fulfillment, carnal fulfillment, and then maybe kids, like, way, way down the road, but certainly not through birth. I would rather adopt.
Who wish to start a family. Instead, modern dating and hookup culture makes sex out to be a trivial and sterile act of personal gratification.
Because it can be. It very much can be. That's the reason why he has that position. Like, you can have sex that is all about carnal gratification. You can have sex that is all about emotional gratification. And you can have sex that is all about procreation. You can have sex that is for any of these. But to say that it must be for one or must be for another is stupid. Especially if you're going to argue the position that anybody that says that sex must be for carnal gratification is wrong, and then you say it must be for procreation, then you're equally as wrong as the straw man you're attacking. Also, Renita has sent me a thing. Roosh hates women wearing... oh my god. No. No, 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 no. Don't tell me. Roosh. Roosh V did a stupid, everybody. So remember when I tackled Roosh V earlier? Renita has sent me a thing that Roosh V did recently, and I'm... upset isn't the word. I'm more disappointed that I share a race with this person. Pants were invented for men, not women. It's impossible for a woman to wear pants, dresses, pant leggings, dungarees, etc., without sexualizing her body, since they highlight her legs, curves, and rear end. Women who want to be modest should not own pants at all. Hot take, my dude. Hot take. But it's incredibly wrong. Pants are made for women and men. And to argue that the origin of pants is what should determine what they're used for from then on is to commit the etymological fallacy, where the origins are used, are the etymological fallacy and the argument from antiquity, which is to argue that the source origin is what should have the highest truth propositional value. And I find that to be absurdly fucking incorrect. Everything in that realm is fashion. Sometimes pants are more fashionable. Sometimes dresses are more fashionable. Sometimes being naked will be more fashionable. And guess what? Deal with it. It's not your body, not your choice. Then again, this is Roosh, the same person that argues that rape should be legal. So, who the fuck am I guess?
Children need high parental investment. This is the reason marriage is meant to be the union of a man and a woman, so that they can both work collaboratively to ensure that their offspring can receive the level of care and attention they need. By the way, here's an article from Fox News. Sex and the City author Candace Bushnell regrets not having kids, says she was truly alone.
Okay, so she constructed a life for herself where she is now truly alone. Okay. Also, if the only reason you're having children is so that you can be less alone, so that you can actually have people to talk to older in age, that's a really fucking selfish reason to have kids. And as per usual, we're dealing with something that's an anecdote and not necessarily any representation of data.
Sex and the City may have left a trailblazing legacy for women on television, but the book's original author now thinks her independent lifestyle may not have been as rewarding. Candace Bushnell, 60, who wrote the original 1997 novel which spawned the successful TV series for HBO, opened up to Sunday Times magazine about her 2012 divorce, admitting it made her realize how not starting a family made her feel truly alone. "When I was in my 30s and 40s, I didn't think about it," she recalled. "Then, when I got divorced and I was in my 50s, I started to see the impact of not having children and of truly being alone. I do see..."
Wait, let me get this straight. A famous woman had a divorce and ended up alone as a result of the divorce. Almost as if the divorce led to her being alone. I mean... yeah, it's almost as if people feel more lonely after leaving their partner. Why does this matter? People regret things. Why does that matter? It's a single anecdote. By arguing that this person, because they are famous, and they are famous for creating a movie that then spawned a TV show that led to some people being more sexually independent, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter, is a Christian. The source doesn't matter in reference to the fucking material. It really doesn't.
That people without children have an anchor in a way that people who have no kids don't. It's really tragic when you think about it. When you're young, you think you've got all the time in the world. And this is the lie that young women are told. And hookup culture reinforces this kind of window shop.
Hookup culture doesn't say that you have all the time in the world. Hookup culture says do whatever the fuck you want. Or whoever the fuck you want. If you want to have kids, have them. Have all the kids you want. Nobody cares. If you don't want to have kids, don't. That's where it begins and ends. It doesn't say you have to have kids and you'll have them later because you've got plenty of time. That's like saying you have to have college and you can have it later because you have plenty of time. Oh, wait. That's your argument. That's your argument, Dave. That's your argument. You're bitching about their argument, but it's your argument. All we've done is change some of the values, but all the propositions are the same. We've shifted out the X and Y, but the structure is completely fucking identical. And yet you have a problem when the X and Y values are changed. Why? It's almost as if you didn't think any of this through. While unironically... oh dear God, I keep hitting the wrong one. While unironically, having a very big think avatar. Always doing this, or this, or this. My dude. Where, why, and how. It's the same argument. It's the exact same argument you're making. Push this thing off till later because you've got plenty of time. But somehow, ignoring the fact that that's not the argument being made, let's pretend that you're correct in your articulation of the argument. Your straw man is 100% what's happening. You're making the same argument they're making. Your priorities are just different. But you're arguing somehow, for some magical reason, that these priorities, yours are better. By merit of them being yours. Okay.
Shopping philosophy. They can always do better than the guy they have. So hookup culture and the dating apps they're on encourage women and men to never truly commit fully to relationships because they can always keep pulling the slot machine lever, so to speak. They can always find a new partner with just a few swipes or taps on their phone.
Yes, and I'll argue that's a good thing, and here's why. To feel like you have to settle on your partner because they are the partner that is convenient to you, because they happen to be the partner you're already with, is an open and shut case for allowing things like abuse, because you're already with your partner. Don't pull that lever and see if you can find somebody better. No, just keep it the one you've got. This is coming from somebody who, yes, has been left for people. So I have been burned by it. I'm still going to hold that it's a better world than saying that somebody who was dissatisfied with me had to stay with me. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. The only way that you could actually hold the position that women or men should not be allowed to look for better people if they do not like who they are with is if you wanted to trap somebody in a relationship. But he would deny that that's his position, just like he would deny that his position is unironically a giant argument for socialism, given that it's anti-consumerism. You know. It's fun. It's fun.
Women have to understand also that a good man is just as much a prize for a woman as a good woman is for a man. But
I don't think anybody denies that. I don't think anybody denies that at all.
In order to earn such a good person, you have to work on yourself and ask yourself honestly, what have I done to deserve the amazing person I believe I'm worthy of?
What? So wait a minute, hold on. Your argument is that the guy that's out there is already good. But the woman has to work on herself to be worthy of him. I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. The only cure is to murder myself on camera. No, I'm still alive. Life is pain.
In addition, no one tells women just how unsatisfying, stressful, and sometimes mind-numbing that work can be. The reason women's happiness has been declining consistently over the last few decades is not just because they're being encouraged to not prioritize motherhood, but because they're learning that working isn't all that fun.
Yeah. But what is the better world? The world in which we force somebody via societal standards or whatever to work under your ideal society, under your ideal purview, or would it be better to instead allow for one that's a little more libertarian? One that allows for people to make these choices, good or bad. Which is better? The one where people can live, learn, grow, or the one where people fit into neat little molds? Which one is it? Which one's the better society? Also, I took painkillers before the stream this time to make sure that any headaches that I suffer as a result of having to hit myself are not as long-lasting as they otherwise could be.
Men have understood for centuries that working often sucks, unless they're very lucky to enter a career they truly love, and that...
Might I suggest one? I hear sex work is quite fun. Oh, but he would say that that's a degrading one, right? That would be his position. That sex work is degrading and therefore they shouldn't go into that. What about YouTubing? You seem to be doing it. That's fun, right? What about that one? That's a thing that people can do, but it's fun. What about education? Forensic science? It's almost like there's a shit ton of career opportunities that somebody could get into that can lead to happiness. Giving them the ability to discover what makes them happy would be a really good way of letting that happen. Keep getting distracted by marbles bouncing in a cup. Oh yeah, they are.
That's rare for many people, but men have been willing to make this sacrifice because firstly, we have no choice, we can't have the kids, and secondly, there's a nobility, honor, duty, and sense of personal satisfaction that men experience at being the provider for their wife.
And is your argument that women can't have that same satisfaction? Is that where we are? That the feelings of honor and duty can only be to those with the Y chromosome? That's your position, really? We argue for the incels and the white knights, everybody. That's Dave Cullen. Shooting for the dollar or the lowest barrel fish.
Wife and children, to endure the hardships of heavy toil, and to have a family to return home to each evening, his wife and child waiting for him. All of these gender quotas, scholarships for women, and affirmative action in education and the workplace, they sound like opportunities for women that are just too good to not take advantage of, but the truth is, they're a poisoned chalice.
But how? Also, we just got a... hold on. First of all, we have a Galactic Halo. It was the all women who are Queen's Vine, if you've seen it. Also, ravioli, this person's going downhill, holy. I'm sorry. That's okay. And then Jack the Good Boy for the 5. I need gin before the stream. I wanted it, but now I need it. I understand. Before the stream, I wanted pizza, and now that we're here, I feel like I need it. But it's okay. I'll manage.
They're not conducive to a happy and fulfilling life.
How though? How is people not being able to make their own decisions conducive to not having a happy life? It seems like what makes individual people happy will be determined on an individual basis, and there are some people that will find happiness in those gender roles and stereotypes, and there are some people who won't. Why would you not argue that the people who do not want that, want that, not the people who just simply can't, because that's your classification from earlier? Why would you argue that these people shouldn't do what they want?
The reason globalists want more women in positions...
It's all right, everybody. We're here talking about the globalists now. The deep state is happening. They hate Trump.
Positions of authority and leadership in the corporate world and indeed in politics is because it's men and not women who are always expected to stand up to rising tyranny. Men are, after all, the warriors in the tribe, and historically they've always been far better at acting.
So, the Amazons, Alexander's women, Queen Tamiris, right? These are not women who've historically fought. Queen Samsi of Arabia, the Trung sisters, Queen Cabal. These are all historical fighters, right? These are all females, cis, historically, that have fought. They've been very important. But these people don't exist. Right? Okay. Right. You okay, Yumi? Timeline of women in ancient warfare worldwide. We have evidence of women in ancient warfare. 17th century BCE, 15th BCE, 13th BCE, 11th BCE. We have it in the 10th century BCE, going all the way up to the 4th century CE. Almost as if this myth that women did not fight historically is just that. It's a myth. Okay. Freaking Hatshepsut led military campaigns against Nubia and Canaan. Freaking Messene conquered territory and founded a fucking city. These are females. But you know, it didn't fucking happen, right? It didn't happen. Right? Okay. 5th century BCE, the Lady of Yue trained soldiers for the army of King Gojin. Yeah. Your combat trainer was a woman. The person teaching your men to fight was not male. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. History doesn't exist. To Dave, history doesn't exist.
Accurately assessing external threats. That's why men are being condemned and demonized for their toxic masculinity, etc., to basically neutralize the native male populations of Western nations, to make them more docile and compliant, and to wear down their resistance to authoritarianism. Women are...
No. He's strawmanning what toxic masculinity is. Toxic masculinity is the idea that these enforced gender roles must be just that, enforced. So men not being allowed to cry, that is a form of toxic masculinity. It doesn't mean that men aren't allowed to be masculine. Masculinity is bad. Toxic masculinity has nothing to do with masculinity as a concept. It has to do with the forms of masculinity that are overtly harmful. Speaking of which, hugging a cat is great. Hello. Hello, Yumi. Have you been going crazy throughout this stream? Has it been driving you nuts?
generally more risk-averse than men and more submissive. Their reproductive instincts make them prioritize safety and security, as this is the ideal environment to raise offspring.
And do you cite any studies for that? Let's take a look. I can't see my screen because Yumi is here. Let's yeet Yumi away. And let's take a look at your description. Obviously, you have opinions. Let's see if you can support those. Does your description have anything that I can read here? Subscribe. Keep up with me on social media. I don't see any cited sources, my guy. And this is an edited video. You had plenty of time to do it.
So female politicians will be less likely to upset the political apple cart. Women are generally more pro-establishment. They're more likely to accept the general consensus and not question or challenge authority quite as much as men. Again, there's always exceptions, but I'm speaking generally. Now, I won't go into all the angry tweets that Stefan received, but I'll simply say that a lot of people reacted emotionally, saying that he shouldn't be dictating to women and that they're free to do whatever they want. And I can say he most definitely wasn't dictating to anyone. He was simply pointing...
I have to pause the video.
We have been told to tell you, you're not fat, you're fluffy, and we love you. 2, food.
What about food? You two actually cooked? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I don't have any ingredients to cook anything I know how to cook.
Raz.
I'm making cookies.
What's up?
I'm baking cookies.
So what's the food?
I mean, there may or may not be a pizza thing coming in.
What?
From, like, Jack.
Oh my fucking god. Is it Domino's again?
Probably.
Have you already ordered it?
No.
Can we get not Domino's?
As long as it's actually pizza and it's delivery. Because I'm not going out to get it.
I'll see what I can do after stream.
Okay, but how much longer are you going to be in stream? Because, like, I'm hungry now.
Okay, this video has 3 minutes left in it.
Okay, but that's, like, 4 minutes too long.
His brain just broke.
We talk when I'm done.
But, like, see, 3 minutes?
See, Aurora Echoes knows Domino's Pizza is best.
Okay, Domino's Pizza is good. However, the problem is that
Elizabeth said women belong on the phone so they can order food from Domino's.
Damn it! So another 45 minutes in Surrey speak. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for fucking calling me out, Tatted. Jesus!
See, we knew this. That's why I was like 3 minutes left on this video, and
You-
we're just like 4 minutes too long.
You do realize that every minute we speak right now is a minute that I'm not finishing this
Yeah,
video?
this should have been done 6 minutes ago.
Exactly.
Why did you even start this video? It should have been done like 30 hours ago.
I don't work on Sundays!
It should have been done 30 hours ago.
This is the life I chose. Why?
Out the reality that women are being lied to. And I'll add to that, so are men. When you get into these kinds of conversations on YouTube or Twitter or wherever, they become very divisive. Men complain that women need to change, women complain that the men need to change, and they're both right to varying degrees. However, as a quick aside, I've often said that if women stop going to nightclubs, for example, men would stop going also. I don't
But if men stopped going to nightclubs, then women would stop going. Why not make the men stop first? They're both just arbitrary at this point, right?
think men in their late 20s and 30s want to be hitting the nightclub bar scene till 3 in the morning. It's awful. Women go there for male attention, men go there to pick up women. Everyone's drunk, everyone's fake, and no one's all that happy. Men will...
Most of the people I've talked to, when they get drunk, that's usually when I see the most, like, unfiltered version of them. Just throwing that out there.
go wherever women go. If women decided en masse to suddenly join knitting clubs instead of going to nightclubs, men would invest heavily in wool. It's that simple. If women decided en masse to prioritize...
But more women go to knitting clubs than men already. What reality does this guy live in? More women already go to knitting clubs than men. So, there should be more men going to knitting clubs, investing in wool, right? That's already the fucking case! He's not joking. These are his positions and they blow.
family life and marriage over career, men would probably change accordingly. If we kicked hookup culture to the curb, society would value monogamy more. And
But why should society value monogamy more? What is gained by strictly valuing monogamy? Like what? Also, hookup culture does not necessarily mean that someone is not monogamous. 95% of people are monogamous. Which means that statistically, most of the people in hookup culture are also monogamous. Monogamy has not been undermined by hookup culture. If anything, polyamory undermines monogamy. You should be arguing against me, not this fucking straw man.
think that's truly what men want. Both sexes have to realize that marriage is not primarily about two individuals extracting value from the union for their own satisfaction. It's about two people uniting to collaborate together in the best interests of their offspring.
Why not in the best interests of themselves, though? Why not? How would you not want to collaborate in the best interests of yourselves? You guys are the people who are alive right now. If you want to collaborate in the best interests of your offspring, that's fine. But if he's going to do the whole, like, marriage first and then children and blah, 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 then you're creating a contract for something that doesn't even For somebody who's probably no, he's not a materialist anymore. I forgot. The guy's a theist now. In a very unstrict sense. I'm confused. I'm computing forever. You confuse me.
That's why a marriage has to be worked at and not bailed on for some vague justification like dissatisfaction. It's about...
My dude. My guy. Friendo. Have you considered polyamory? Oh no. Person A is sexually dissatisfied with their relationship because they are sexually incompatible with the person they're with. Let's say the person they're with found out that they were ace. And then person B, because they're ace, these two are incompatible. But they're poly. So person C can help satisfy some, not all, but some of the sexual needs of person A, while also not being sexually beholden to person B. They may or may not be dating. They might. Who knows? Now everybody's still together. This familial unit has been maintained. Have you considered that? Have you considered that's an option that people have here? Or it's got to be slut culture. It's got to be slut culture. It's got to be that. That's got to be the problem. Fix that, all the dominoes fall apart. They all fall right down. The world becomes a better place. Everybody becomes a worshiping Roman Catholic. Nightshade, polyamory is not against the Christian way. If polyamory were against the Christian way, then Abraham would not have had multiple partners.
The best traits of the feminine and the masculine working in unison to complement each other. Also, more people have to acknowledge that at present, marriage is working out to be a raw deal for men. Divorce courts and child custody settlements favour women overwhelmingly, and though I fully support the movement of men's rights, it's a slow and long road. MGTOW gained more traction because it was something that men could do immediately.
Okay. So we do have to have one point of slight agreement with Computer Forever. There is an issue where men are legally ruled against more than women in some of these areas. That's a thing that happens. Yes. And MGTOW, yes, is something that men have done classically because it's something that they can do in the immediate. It's stupid because if you did the whole MGTOW thing, you would have a situation where none of those men could procreate at all, and they've gone their own way, and now they've all died off. So I can only agree on half. The half that, yes, there is some legal issues regarding different sentencing of men and women. But there's also legal issues regarding different sentencing of white and black people. Like, this is just an issue with the way that the legal system works. So yes, I agree. The legal system needs to be reformed. That's not all going to be fixed by fucking getting rid of slut culture. Terror, come here. Terror's meowing because Raz locked her in the room with me.
They felt a greater sense of autonomy by choosing to simply opt out of relationships with women and avoid the possible legal pitfalls, and this makes total sense. So I think
you can avoid those legal pitfalls and still have relationships with women. It's called not getting married. It's not hard. It's not a difficult thing to do.
similarly to the affirmative action and gender quota stuff we talked about earlier, women have to realize that all of these legal benefits they have when it comes to divorce and child custody, they're also a poisoned chalice in the long run. No one really wins, least of all the children, who are often left with only a part-time father or, at worst, no father at all. Finally, I'll reiterate once again, both men and women are being...
So, first of all, we're going to have a little bit of protection from the madness that is here. And that is... stream. We have from the Dragon Lord a quick doodle. Cirrus got some furry shit. Oh, whoa, end me. God damn it. I'm reminded of that meme. I think that this was a reference to the to that one meme, right? That's the one we're ending on, I think. Also, yes, sub to Cirrus. Thank you for that. About to hit him with this furry shit. Oh, whoa, what's this? Notices your channel?
Being lied to about everything. About sex, how they should engage in relationships, about their careers, and what they should focus on, etc. And so it's time to reject the programming. Men and women are very different, and therefore they are suffering from all of this social engineering and the breakdown in gender dynamics in different ways. We've all been distracted with materialism, frivolity, and we've been experimented on to one degree or another. So we can all carry a degree of baggage from that.
But reject the programming while arguing in other videos that everybody should become a Christian. Reject the programming, but just be programmed by this other thing. Okay. Sure. Why not?
So the first challenge is to recognize to what extent we've internalized this crap and to learn how to move forward and pursue an authentic, happy, and meaningful life. That means dropping many preconceived notions that
Like Christianity.
have been sold to us as truth. Globalists
Like Christianity.
seek to undermine the institution of marriage and the family just as they seek to undermine religion, because these were autonomous
Ah, there's the special pleading.
institutions that fell outside of the control of the government. They operated independently.
Religion didn't fall outside of the control of the government. Religion classically was the government. I could skip a pebble off this man's brain.
What they wish to achieve is a state where the only institutions that people can rely on are the ones that are controlled and run by the government. In a world that promotes nihilism, individualism, and vain solipsism,
I don't think you can define any of those words. I don't think you could define a single one of those words you used.
in a world that promotes nihilism,
Nihilism. That thing that I just did a video on. That thing that Nietzsche labeled everybody else as, and then everybody labeled Nietzsche. That thing, right? What kind of nihilism? Existential nihilism? Moral nihilism? Which one is it? There's also more than that. Could you name them?
individualism,
And individualism. You're arguing that everybody should be an individual thinker, not a collectivist. But then you then argue that that's the other position. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, my guy.
and vain solipsism.
And again, solipsism. Do you know what that is? Could you define it? Because there is not a single part of society that tells you that solipsism is true.
Relationships can be reduced to the transient and transactionary. However, relationships are something we enter in order to give, not to extract from. Love
Yeah, I'm calling bullshit on that one. The Quacken is Darth Nihilist a nihilist? No, he's not. No, Darth Nihilist had an imperative.
Love is ultimately less a feeling and more an action. It's what we do and selflessly sacrifice for others, expecting nothing in return.
Yeah, no, let's not. Let's go back to your dumb face. There we go. Oh my god. That's the end of his video, everybody. We made it. We got it. We did it. Everybody keeps us talking. You'll keep me talking for a few minutes. You'll keep me talking for a very few minutes. Oh my god. So, a definition of solipsism, because somebody in the chat is asking for that. Solipsism is the view that the self is all that can be known to exist. Basically, I think, therefore I am, is as far as you can possibly go under the view of solipsism. For solipsism to be something that's pushed in society, a society that he's arguing pushes consumerism, the mere point that you cannot know that material item to exist, and therefore you have to be a solipsist, would be in and of itself an argument against consumerism, because the imperative to buy the item has been stripped away by merit of the knowledge of whether or not it exists being unattainable. So, no, I don't see a point where solipsism is the thing that's actually being pushed. Dark Sona, you know that rock will fall into the nothingness of his brain if you do that. Fair. Fair enough. Yeah, you owe me some neurons, sir. Sorry, Lisa. I'm too lazy for this. No, I remember you committing suicide halfway through here. Fair. Fair. Now, the real question is, did I actually provide... You know what? I didn't. Hold on. I'm an idiot. I should probably go to the shop. This whole time, I didn't actually put the Teespring link. There we go. Teespring link is in there. All right. Also, there's this. I completely forgot to put this in there. So anybody who happens to be... Brain. Anybody who happens to be wanting to go to the Teespring shop and get anything from there, that's there as well. Where is it? Marcel Fuss, sir, Computer Forever wasn't ever a skeptic. He was an atheistic asshole. Now he's just an asshole. Fair enough. Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I can agree with that one. We also seem to have one of those fun people in the chat. I'm not going to name his name, though. He knows who he is. So, that said, I have enjoyed doing this. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I now actually have a headache. The painkillers were not enough to stop. So, if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, send it to your friends, do all that other fun stuff. I've been here for a little while, but I have enjoyed every moment with you all. So, see you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. I will see you guys in tomorrow's episode, and in the comment section, where I'm sure everybody's going to be bitching about all of my opinions on everything, which is what we do.